According to psychologists, the average person has thousands of thoughts every single day. But for some people, thinking never seems to stop. A single conversation gets replayed dozens of times. A simple decision becomes an exhausting mental debate. An uncertain future turns into hundreds of imagined possibilities. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And contrary to what most people believe, constant overthinking isn't simply a habit of worrying too much. Here's what nobody talks about. Your mind may not be working against you. It may actually be trying to protect you. Most people assume overthinkers are indecisive or overly anxious. But psychologists have found that excessive thinking is often connected to heightened sensitivity, stronger pattern recognition, and a brain that's constantly searching for safety and certainty in an unpredictable world. You've probably noticed that your mind refuses to settle even when nothing is wrong. While everyone else seems able to move on, you're still analyzing every word, every choice, every possible outcome. Sometimes it feels like your own brain has become a room you can't leave. But what if overthinking isn't the real problem? What if it's a symptom of something much deeper that began long before you ever realized it? If you've ever experienced this, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious how many people relate to this. You weren't born questioning every decision or replaying every mistake. Somewhere along the way, your brain learned that paying close attention was necessary. For some people, it began in childhood. Maybe emotions around you felt unpredictable. Maybe you grew up trying to avoid conflict, reading people's expressions before they even spoke. Maybe making mistakes carried consequences that felt bigger than they should have. Over time, your mind discovered that thinking ahead could reduce uncertainty, even if only for a moment. Psychologists sometimes describe this as emotional conditioning. Your brain quietly learns patterns based on past experiences. If anticipating problems once helped you stay emotionally safe, your mind begins repeating that strategy automatically. Eventually, overthinking stops being something you do. It becomes part of how you experience the world. The strange part is that even after your environment changes, your brain often doesn't. It continues scanning for dangers that may no longer exist, asking endless what-if questions because somewhere deep inside, certainty still feels like safety. And that's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Carl Jung believed that much of our behavior is shaped by forces operating beneath conscious awareness. Modern neuroscience supports a similar idea. Your brain is constantly making predictions about the future based on past experiences. Researchers studying the brain have found that the areas responsible for planning, memory, and self-reflection can become highly active when people repeatedly analyze situations. Psychologists call this rumination, a mental loop where the brain keeps returning to unresolved questions, hoping that one more thought will finally produce certainty. Daniel Kahneman, whose work transformed our understanding of human thinking, explained that our minds often rely on two different systems. One reacts quickly, the other analyzes slowly and carefully. Overthinkers tend to spend far more time in that slower system, examining possibilities long after most people have moved on. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Thousands of years ago, noticing subtle threats could mean survival. A cautious brain often had advantages. The problem is that today's dangers are rarely predators hiding in the bushes. They're unanswered texts, career choices, relationships, and imagined futures. Yet your brain often reacts as though every uncertainty is life or death. This is why simply telling yourself to stop thinking rarely works. Your mind believes it's helping you. But this is where things get interesting. If this is making sense so far, take a second to subscribe. Videos like this are designed to help you understand yourself on a deeper level. Most people believe overthinking is proof that something is wrong with them. But the truth is often the opposite. Many people who constantly overthink also possess remarkable strengths that rarely get noticed. They observe details others miss. They recognize patterns before they're obvious. They consider consequences that others overlook. They often display high levels of empathy because they're constantly imagining how other people might feel or react. The difficulty comes when those strengths lose balance. Imagine owning one of the world's most powerful searchlights but never being able to switch it off. That's what overthinking can feel like. The same mind capable of incredible insight also becomes capable of endless self-questioning. Psychologist Murray Bowen suggested that emotional maturity isn't about eliminating emotions or thoughts. It's about learning not to become overwhelmed by them. In other words, the goal isn't to stop thinking, it's learning when your thoughts deserve your attention and when they don't. This realization changes everything. You're not weak because your mind notices possibilities. You're exhausted because it notices too many. And once you understand that difference, you stop seeing yourself as broken and begin seeing yourself as someone learning how to direct an incredibly active mind instead of being controlled by it. Here's how you know this pattern might describe you. The first sign is that you replay conversations long after they've ended. Your brain isn't simply remembering them, it's searching for hidden meanings and missed signals. Another clue is that small decisions feel surprisingly difficult. Choosing isn't the hard part. It's imagining every possible outcome that drains your energy. A third sign is that you often prepare for problems before they happen. You mentally rehearse conversations, challenges, and even disappointments because your brain believes preparation equals protection. Finally, you may struggle to fully enjoy peaceful moments. When life becomes quiet, your mind often creates new questions to solve, because constant mental activity has become familiar. None of these patterns mean you're destined to overthink forever. They simply reveal how your mind has learned to operate. Which of these signs describes you best? Leave a comment below. I read every single one and I'd love to hear your experience. Maybe overthinking was never your true identity. Maybe it was simply a survival strategy that stayed longer than it needed to. The moment you recognize that, something shifts. Instead of fighting your thoughts, you become curious about them. Instead of believing every fearful prediction, you begin asking why your brain felt the need to create it in the first place. Self-awareness doesn't silence the mind overnight, but it transforms your relationship with it. Your thoughts stop feeling like commands. They become information, and information can guide you without controlling you. Perhaps the greatest freedom isn't having fewer thoughts. It's knowing that you are more than the thoughts passing through your mind. Psychological research consistently shows that developing greater awareness of our thinking patterns reduces emotional distress over time, not because life becomes easier, but because we stop confusing every thought with reality. So if you've spent years believing your constant thinking made you flawed, remember this. The very mind that overwhelms you today is also capable of extraordinary creativity, compassion, and wisdom when it's given direction instead of fear. You were never meant to eliminate your ability to think deeply. You were meant to learn when to trust your mind and when to gently let it rest. If this video spoke to you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And remember, your greatest strength isn't having a mind that never stops thinking. It's learning that you don't have to follow every thought to find peace.